Welcome to my channel, and I'm here to inspire you, give you crochet advice, and help you along with your next project. If you enjoyed this pattern, please give me a thumbs up or even comment so I can gauge your interest. It helps me to know what to film next. I'm not very formal. Here's today's zinger. I don't know if you realize it, but this channel is mostly crochet darlings. You know, it's not knitting. Oh look, is that a yarn sale? You may get distracted here on this channel because there's so much choice. And without further ado, let's begin today's tutorial. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd with my friends over at yarnspirations.com. Today's the Tunisian Simple Stripes Crochet Blanket. I call it the Equalizer in my own head because of the way that this thing is working. We are using Red Heart Super Saver Ogo today, and one color will be the Peacock, and that is the variegated self-striping yarn, and the other one is a solid color of gold. Remember that these Ogos are the same size as the original balls, so if you prefer to use that, you can. So why I call it the Equalizer is the way that it appears. So when we go to crochet this, we are crocheting in the length here. So this blanket, when you look at it from this perspective, we're just going back and forth. So it's going to be draping like this, and you'll have some fringe if you prefer that. There's also some techniques in this particular tutorial where we always have a roll within your Tunisian, and so we're going to be addressing that today within the pattern. And I'm going to show you a sample that I was practicing with, and I'm going to show you why I call it the Equalizer, and hopefully it makes some sense. So here's the sample in progress. You can see that the roll happens. That's normal with Tunisian. People think it's wrong, but the fact is that because you're always using the front side of the project and never turning your work, it has the natural scroll look. So how you get rid of that is to increase your hook. So you'll notice that we're going to be using an 8mm Tunisian hook, and that is one that has an extension to it. So it has those wires so that you can get all the stitches onto your Tunisian hook. So I'm just going to be using a regular size today because I'm just going to show you a swatch. So this is kind of the one I'm working with, but the ones that you would need for this would be smaller like this, and then have a wire attached or plastic tubing so that you can slide the extra stitches onto it. As I begin to do Tunisian, I have a pad here because when I'm here, drives me absolutely up the wall when I'm here on the studio. So I just have it so I can bang it off this and you won't hear it as much. So when I'm using an Afghan hook like this, I tend to stay in the middle of the hook because it keeps the balance. If I stick to one side, I feel like my hand is going to pull back, and if I'm too far back, my hand's going to want to droop down. So I tend to stay in the balancing point. Now with Tunisian, knowing that the tension is actually really quite tight, this hook is a lot bigger than you would normally use with your Red Heart Super Saver, but once you get started on this, you're going to notice that the tension really contracts. And so if you start with the same size Afghan hook that is recommended for the ball, like a 5mm size H or 5.5mm size I, it'll be extremely tight to the point where that roll effect would be really quite hard to be able to fix, like almost impossible. So what I want to do is I want to use this and use the balance point. Just as my own frame of reference, I really thought that this pattern would look really good within the black and gray tones, so you would use this then, and then the Equalizer to stabilize the coloring look would then be using the black logo like so. So you can see it'd be a really neat concept. So I'm going to continue to use the leftover yarns that I have so I don't waste any yarn, because I don't want to crack these just for a few yards just to demonstrate today. So here's our sample, and what our goal is that we want to create the look using that self-striping yarn. And so you know, you can actually really have some fun colors with this, and we're going to start off with the first 5 rows of being that. So the color is going to change on its own, and when you look at the pattern you don't really see any solids like that. That's because this sample is worked in the distance. So when you're using this other kind of yarn here with the yarns that change color more often, you're going to notice that it will look a lot more consistent with how this is appearing. Once those 5 rows are complete, the next 6 rows are going to be having this solid color mixed into it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go across, and you'll have like the self-striping, and then you go back, and then the next time you will have then the solids going across and then back. And so this particular section is actually using 2 yarns at the same time, which gives it that look that's really quite consistent in the pattern. We're then going to return just using to the self-striping again. Let it play its own tune. You can see the colors have changed as it was progressing. Do you see that? Once that's done, you'll return back to then doing the mix of the solids and the self-striping once again. Really quite desirable, and I think this is really awesome an idea. Once we get started on this, you're going to do a repeat pattern, which is the repeat is all right here. just this section. So you repeat, repeat, repeat until you get to the size that you prefer. So it's a really neat idea. I'm going to show you the techniques today, and hopefully this is not too long-winded, but I'm sure you'll let me know if I am. Let's begin our journey, and we are going to be starting off with an Afghan hook, and that's where we're going to begin next. Once you have your slip knot, just insert your Afghan hook. So pay attention, the Afghan hook is longer. You want to concentrate on the shaft. Okay, so if you stay down here, the distance of the circumference will never be accomplished. So when you do something, slide it down your shaft, get the distance so that it relaxes, and so that you'll always have the consistent size. So you can either chain 146 or you can chain any number that you wish. This particular pattern does not have a stitch multiple, so you can just do as many. So I'm just gonna do 12 just because it's in my head. So I'm just gonna chain, and you can do 146 or any chain you want. And so when you pull through the chain, slide it down the shaft so that it gets the distance of the circumference, and then do the next one. So continue to slide down your shaft in order to do that. So please just chain the number that you would prefer. You don't even have to count. You can just chain until you get to the size that you want. Remember that you're working with the length of the blanket, so when you're looking at it from a perspective like this, that when you're displaying it, it'll be facing down even though you're crocheting it this way. So please do this, and I will see you at the end of the chain, and we'll start then row number 1. To start row number 1, you are going to have to make sure that your hook is long enough so you have that extra wire attached to it, or it could be a plastic piping that you have in order to collect all your stitches, because you will not get that many stitches on something like this. So what you want to do is that you want to go second chain from the hook, and you want to collect the back loop only of the chain. So inserting in, and you yarn over and slide it down your shaft to the distance of the same circumference, and you're gonna keep that on your hook. And so you'll go to the next one, pull through, and slide in, and this comes natural. Once you start working with this, you can literally bang it out pretty quick. So it's just a matter of getting used to it. So you're collecting every stitch that you own on this particular concept, and this is called the forward pass because the hook is moving towards the point, so it's going forward. So even if this is the left-handed version, it's still in the direction to where the point of the hook is going. So please do your forward pass then for row number 1. I'll be back in a moment. Now you're gonna go all the way down your chain until you run out of chains. Rocket science, right? You got no more chains, what are you gonna do? So you're just gonna go all the way. It doesn't matter in the count. I'm trying to be as nice as possible with that, so you don't need a stitch count with this. And so this, how you finish this last stitch is the only way that you'll finish it here on this particular pattern this way. I'm gonna show you in second row how the last stitch is actually done. So this is called the return pass. Let's begin the return pass. This is still row number 1 though. So each row has a forward pass and a return pass before you're moving on. So in order to do the return pass, you yarn over and you pull through the first loop only. Again, slide it down that shaft. That's considered a chain 1. Normally in crochet, when we start a row, we chain 1 and then proceed across. In this particular case, in Tunisian, it's the other way. So the chain 1 is on this side of the project. So you're never turning your hook. You're always keeping it here. That's what causes the roll, because you're never turning your project. The rest of the stitches all the way to the very last one is yarning over, pulling it through 2. Okay. And then you're just yarning over, pulling it through 2. The chain that, or sorry, the stitch that you're doing right now will literally fall inside this gap. So you're gonna notice that these like almost like a picket fence openings. In the next forward pass, you're going to notice that that will pull down and fill in the space naturally. So you're just gonna pull through 2 all the way back, and this is considered row number 1. And you stop when you have just 1 loop left on your hook. And you're done. And that was row number 1. Let's begin row number 2. Let's proceed to row number 2. Row number 2 is going to be consistent no matter if we're working with the equalizing area or not. To do this, it's called a Tunisian simple stitch, and you're looking for the bars that are considered in the verticals. Do you see where those are? Those are the vertical bars. So when we go to start this, we're going to ignore the first one that is right on the edge. That's not your first one. Your first one is right here. So you're just gonna slide behind the first bar, and you're gonna yarn over and collect, and you're gonna keep it and move it down your shaft. So when this is the forward pass, so you're gonna collect all your stitches once again. So you go to the next vertical, and you're noticing then, look, see how this fills in? So this action is going to cause the last row or return pass to fall down into that gap. This means, if you're thinking ahead, when you go to finish your project, is that this direction that I'm doing right now is the only way to fasten off at the end, so that you don't end up with gaps at the end. And we'll cover that later too. So you're gonna collect all these vertical bars. This is a Tunisian simple stitch. The vertical bars can be used in multiples of different ways of different stitches, but for this application today, it's the Tunisian simple stitch. Your goal is changing at the very last stitch. That's the only time that it's slightly different. And if you don't do it the way I'm gonna suggest, then you are going to have a significant problem, you know, for crochet. First world problem, I suppose. So the last stitch is right here. So there, you don't want to collect a vertical because this will leave a significant gap. So when you just turn it around and when you go in, you want to make sure that there's 2 strands on top of the hook. Do you see that? Okay, so you're not going into just one. If you go into one, you end up with a major gap, but you want to go so that you're getting 2 strands on the top of your hook. Then yarn over, and then the forward pass is done. Yarn over and pull through. Okay, and you're gonna notice it's gonna scroll with you. The easier you are on this, the easier it is as well. So let's do the return pass, which is always gonna be the same in this particular application. Let's begin. So let's do the return pass like we did on the very first chain. We're gonna yarn over and only pull through the first loop. That's considered a chain 1 to build the height. As I said, when we start a row, normally it would have been on the other side and we work forward. In Tunisian, it's backwards. So we chain up on this side. Once that's done, you're going to chain, or sorry, you're gonna yarn over, pull through 2, and you're gonna do 2 all the way back. And you're gonna notice it's gonna create those spaces once again, which would then be covered and finished when you do the return pass, or sorry, the forward pass in the next row. So off camera, what I've done is that I've written down the numbers. I found with myself it was hard to remember where I was, and this because really the action of one row is going forward and then back. And this was the end of row number 2. You see that? Let's begin row number 3. Row number 3, it's the same as what we just did. So row number 3 through 5 is the same. So you're going to start on this vertical here. You don't start with the edge, and collect it and pull up. Okay, and you're gonna do that all the way across. Okay, and you see that when you do that action, it's filling in the space and pushing what we just did down into that slot. Okay, do you remember how to handle the last stitch? The scrolling is natural. As you can see, I'm kind of fighting it on camera, but it does naturally happen. So on the very edge, you don't want to go into just one strand. You want to make sure that you just kind of turn it towards you and make sure that you collect 2 strands on the end, and then yarning over, pulling it through. and that will keep the edge looking consistent. And let's do our return pass while we're here. So it's very simple, just yarn over, pull through one loop only, just the first time. That's your chain one to start, and then yarning over, pulling it through twos all the way back. Please do this all the way back. This is row number 3, and I'll begin on number 4 in a moment. Let's begin number 4. Again, it's the second vertical from the edge, and you're just gonna pick up. This is the forward pass, and you're gonna do this all the way to the other side. So please do this for row number 4. I'll see you at the turning point, or sorry, at the return point, and I'll be back in a moment. This is number 4. Okay, coming up to the end of number 4, this is before we do the return. Remember to collect those 2 strands right at the end, and then you're ready to return. So chain over and pull through 1 and then pull through 2s all the way back. And so this will be the end of row number 4 in a moment, and we'll start number 5 before we begin the massive repeat of this pattern. Okay, this is number 5. Again, second vertical bar in, just collect your stitches, go all the way to the end, make sure you get the right stitches, and then return back. So please do now row number 5, which is the forward and the return pass as you know it, and then we'll start number 6 in a moment. Row number 6 through 11 now are going to be the equalizer rows. So it's going to be changing the colors as we go, and we're gonna be carrying those colors, so you don't have to get rid of them completely at the end of each row. So what you need to do is to start, you're going to start with the same color that you're currently using. Okay, so the same yarn that you're currently using, and you're going to start with your vertical bars, and you're gonna collect all your stitches right into the end of the row. So this is row number 6. So what I want you to do is just go all the way. I'll see you at the turning point to come back for the return pass, where we're going to change our color at that point. So I'm continuing across, and you should know that the yarn is about to change color. That was a complete fluke here at this point, so that's just something that is complete flukish. So what I want to do is that I want to start the next color. So what I want to do is that I don't want to get rid of this color, but I want to introduce the next one with the slip knot, and I want to pull through. I want to put it onto the hook. Now like before, just using that strand, just pull through the first loop only, and then continuing to use that strand, then pull 2s all the way back. So this means that if I'm dragging this color back towards the other side here, when I do the forward pass, I'm going to be using the same color. So I'm only changing the color when I'm here at the return point, if that makes any sense. So I'm continuing all the way back. This is row number 6, and then we're gonna start number 7 in a moment. So the green is still here, and it's just holding for me to restart it again in the future. Let's begin row number 7. So row number 7, I'm still using the same color because there's no other yarn to work with. So I'm going to start with my Tunisian simple stitch, going all the way to the other side once again. So what this is doing is that it's causing that information here, this row, to sink down in between, while keeping the verticals a different color in the next row when we go to do it. So that's what makes it really quite consistent looking. If you prefer solid color rows, then what you would want to do is change your yarn color on this side of the project, so that you don't have a different color that is overlaying another one, if that bothers you. But this is the whole point of this particular project, to have this really kind of cool look to it. So I'm gonna make my way all the way across, and the goal is to drop this yarn at the end of the row before doing the return pass with the new yarn that is just holding, waiting for me. So in the very last one here, you're just gonna go in. So this is when it gets dicey, because you've changed your yarn. You're only gonna go into the one strand here on this side, and just make sure that before you, when you drop this one, before you start this other strand here, you want to just kind of pull it back into alignment. Now you're gonna come back with this other color instead. So yarning over, pulling it through one loop, and then pull it through 2s all the way back across. And this is row number 7. So you're letting the color just change on its own, play its own tune. next row is 7. So let's begin row number 8. Row number 8 is exactly all what you know. This is the only yarn that you can play with, so that's the one you're gonna start and do your forward pass just as you know it. So go all the way to the return point and I will change out my yarn again and show you how to do that. I'll be right back. So continuing with my forward pass here on row number 8, and again just coming to the outside here, pull through, and before you start make sure you pull things nice and tight back in, drop that yarn and bring up your gray once again and start to return. So just pull through 1 loop only and then 2s all the way back. And this is row number 8. So you go all the way back to the other side. I'll see you there in a moment. At the end of row number 8, here's where we are. So now you're gonna go row number 9, just continuing along. The gray is what you're using because that's the only thing that's available to you. And then you're gonna do your forward pass for row number 9 and then change it when you get to the return point. I'll be back in a moment. This is row number 9. Coming all the way across, and on the very last one here you're gonna change out that yarn. So just pull through, just pull things nice back together, pull through 1 loop and return with that new color in hand. Okay, this is row number 9. I will be back in a moment and we'll start row number 10. Let's begin row number 10, and you're using the only color that you have available to you, and you're gonna go across, change your yarn and then return. I think I've already demonstrated it a few times here, so please do row number 10 in the same manner and I'll see you at the end of row number 10 in a moment. Let's begin row number 11 and just continuing to use the yarn that you came back with and go all the way to the return point and then change your color, and then this is where we're gonna be ending the solid color at the end of this particular section of the tutorial. So please do row number 11 as you know it, and I'll be right back in a moment. So this is the end of row number 11. So you can see that you got 1, 2, 3 of the solids of the grays that appear here, and then their counterparts of the vertical is right above it. You can see that right there. So what I want to do is that this yarn here, we're technically done with it for now, so we're just going to cut it so that I can weave it in later. And now we're going to start rows number 12 through 17, which will be then just only using the one self-striping yarn that you see here. Let's begin 12 through 17. So let's do rows number 12 through 17. I just got to demonstrate it once because it's already what you know. You're just gonna start with your vertical loops, and you're not changing any colors at the end of this when you start the return pass. So basically you got 6 rows of forward and return pass of using the same strand of yarn, which will then give it the really cool look before then returning back to using the equalizing the solid in between in order to create that look that you see in the main sample. So please now do rows number 12 through 17 and I'll be right back in a moment. And to reiterate, when you get all the way across, you're going to just come into the edge as you know it, chain 1 and then return. Okay, so you're not changing at the end of that, so we'll be leaving that other color in out of the way for now. So continue this. I'll see you at the end of number 17 in a moment. So I've now just finished up to the end of number 17. So the repeat is this section right here, all of this. So you have the equalizing and then you have this. So because the sample is so much smaller, you don't have that sense of what it looks like in the true sample because the distance is not as big. So it really gives you an indication that if you wanted to use solid colors in between the equalizing, you could do that as well and it would actually turn out pretty neat. This is not a mistake, this is just the way it looks on the edge. Now it says to fasten off, so you're gonna repeat now rows number 6 through 17 until it measures approximately 46 inches, whatever's closest, right? And that's what you're going to do. You then have to fasten off, which is not explained in this particular idea because it is a Tunisian technique, and that's the whole point of today's tutorial. So let me show you how to fasten this off because you can't just end right now because you will have these really ugly gaps right here at the edge. So we want to fill that in before we actually are now finished. And so technically when you have Tunisian, the fastening off is on this side, not here. And so then if you fasten off right now, the other side is solid all the way to the edge. And so that's what you'll want to do. So let's show you how to fasten off. So get your 46 inches done and then prepare to fasten off, which I'm going to demonstrate next. To fasten off, you're going to use the same technique that you have been doing with the vertical bars. However, you're not going to collect them. So you're just going to go into the next vertical bar and you're going to collect like that, and then you're going to pull through, and that closes it down. So go to the next vertical, pull through and through. Make sure you move it down that shaft to keep the consistency, and you see that that's pushing, like it normally has been, pushing the return pass down into the space so that you don't end up with a gap. Does that make sense? So you're gonna go all the way to the other side of using the same technique, and this would be how you would finish off Tunisian simple stitch in this particular concept. And that's what we're gonna do. So I'll see you at the end of this row in a moment. Once you're at the very last one, you're still going to go and make sure you grab those 2 loops and pulling it in and in, and this is where it ends. So what I want to do is that I want to just trim it long enough so that I can throw it through a tapestry needle. So just pull it around and pull through. Any loose ends you'll want to do the same thing, so especially with these. So you're just gonna turn it to the back side. This is what it looks like on the back, and you're just going to take that strand with the tapestry needle. Weaving it in it's just gonna follow it, so don't bother. So just going into the back of the work, keep the needle so that it's just on the back side stitches only. So if you turn that around, I should not see that needle going through. So just go through once, and when you pull it, make sure you don't change the shape of your project. So pulling it through, and then a slightly different path. It's better if you get yourself in between some plies, and then you'll do that. Okay, and then that's safe to cut down into the project. So any loose ends you would have had with this, especially with this gray area when you changed over, same thing exists, just throw it through a tapestry needle back and forth 3 times. Recommending, because it is the back of it, you don't want to mess the back of it the way that it looks, so when you go to glide it through, just keep it within the same coloring so that it's really quite hidden. And make sure you pull it in a nice fashion so that it's taut but not changing the shape of your project. So any loose ends, that's what you'll want to do, and I will leave that in your capable hands. But we are going to move on, and we are going to then demonstrate on how to do the edging, and that's our next. So let's work on your edging. You're going to need a 6mm size J crochet hook in order to do this. I told you that Tunisian has a tension level, so even though we were using a much thicker hook, you'll notice that it actually has the consistency of a J. Okay, so what I want to do is that you can see that there's a natural scrolling happen, so you want to settle that down. So you're gonna do this edge and this edge. You're not gonna worry about the side edge. So when you're displaying it on yourself, the stripes are gonna be down like this. So with the right side facing, which is the good side, you can clearly tell which is good and which is not. So this is what you're looking for. So let's begin on the very first stitch. Just attach it. So what you want to do is you want to focus on the back loops only. So right here, these loops are the only ones you want to focus on. It'll help it keep it consistent. So stay within one loop only, and attach it, and chain 3, which is your first double crochet, and in the next back loop all the way across you're going to double crochet. This is gonna settle down that scrolling, but we're not quite done once we get over there. So just double crochet in the back loop only all the way across, and you'll want to do the same thing with the other side, just in case I didn't say that enough times already. Okay, so just double crochet, and I'll be right back in a moment. Once you've come all the way across, it's gonna look like this, and you want to create this strand to be so long that you'll be able to use it as a whip stitch to go back all the way across. So in my case I don't need it that long. So what I want to do is that I want to just pull this out through here, and we want to fold this part of the project. So what we just did, we want to fold it so that it's going towards the back side of the work. So let's just throw this through a tapestry needle. Gail says that we should pin it if you want to. It's up to you and how you want to do it. You may want to look at it from this perspective, so the back side of the work. And what you're going to do is that you're going to then whip stitch it and collect it into the back loops here so you will not see it, and then just go right through the top of the first stitch. Okay, and that's gonna create a roll. So then you go to the next loop here, and then the next loop here. If you prefer to use your crochet hook and do a slip stitching, you probably could do that too. I think I might have done that if you weren't watching me, but I will follow the rules today. Okay, and what this is doing is it's bending it to your will so that you have like a nice thick border to it. So go all the way across, whip stitching, and I'll be right back in a moment. Coming all the way to the end piece and just gonna come in. Now it's gonna, on the other side it's gonna look like a roll, which is awesome. So what we want to do then is take that strand and making sure that it ties itself into a knot, and then you're just gonna, on the back side here, you're just gonna weave it back and forth a total of 3 times. Again, make sure you don't change the shape of your project by pulling it too tight, but be consistent enough so that it will never fall out on you. The longer you drag it inside the project, the more unlikely that it will come out on you. So again, any loose ends, you'll want to do the same thing with the other edge. The siding edge you don't need to worry about. And we're gonna talk about fringe next. So you see this settles that right down like so versus what we just had. So let's talk about fringe next. So the fringing is actually pretty consistent. It's equally spaced. So when there was gold used, there was the gold fringe. Okay, this is the equalizing, so in my case it would be the gray, and the other one is the other self-striping color that you would like to use. So what I would do for me is that I would use the gray on the ends here if you would like to add fringe, and then use your self-striping colors for the other pieces here. Let me demonstrate how to do the fringe. To do the fringe, you are going to take a tape measure and you're gonna measure a total of 14 inches. Okay, so there's 14. And so I would take this then and just use it in my hand and pull through, so it's got a fold, and then here you need a total of 3 of these, so you just folded it 3 times or twice actually. So then you can cut it, and that's the length that you'll need. So if it were me and you weren't watching me, I would just do bang and then fold it and fold it again. Okay, and you keep on doing that to make these. And so you will do that with the self-striping for the self-striping portion of it. How you attach it though matters. So let's talk about that. When we did this, you will remember that we had 6 rows of each one of these ideas. So in the particular pattern that I can see is that they're using just 3 rows out of the 6 for each. So you could either do gray, gray, and gray, or you could put it on the other one and then self-stripe, self-stripe, self-stripe. So you just equally space it. The trick to this is that I've not trimmed those loops that I created, but I want to take this and fold it directly in half. To keep it looking consistent, here's the trick also. You want to have the right side of the project facing up, and you want to go from the back side of it and pop it to the good side. It matters. And you want to collect that loop that's been folded in half and pull through. So you're pulling it down towards the back of the project, and you're only pulling it enough so that you can get your fingers behind it so you can slam this through. This here is going to appear on the front side of the work. So if you go through the wrong side here, that will appear upside down. See how it looks consistent like that? So the other side, it looks different. So you want to be really consistent with that with all your strands that you do. And then down through, and just be consistent like this. Once you're satisfied with this, and at the end of the project, once all of your fringing is in, what I like to do is just kind of like push it down, and I actually like to hang it over a table as well. And I will just kind of measure what I think is long enough, and just run your scissors all the way up through the fringe on the side, and just kind of brush it out a little bit so you can see it. And that would be how you would do your fringe, and it's something that is really quite consistent, so when you're displaying it, you can have a really beautiful look, really quite simply. So this is it for today. We hope that you enjoy, and this is the Tunisian Simple Stitch blanket. It's the Simple Stripes, and it's making on behalf of the Crochet Crowd as well as my friends at yarnspirations.com. We'll see you.